You know, we hear the word diversity thrown around all the time, but what does it actually mean? What does it feel like? Today, we're going to explore that, and we'll start with something pretty simple, something you've probably even done yourself.
Okay, let's start right here. Have a look at these two drawings. On the left, you've got one with these really sharp lines, vibrant, kind of geometric shapes. Then on the right, it's a portrait made with soft, flowing colors. Now, they're both drawings of a person, but they couldn't be more different, right? Totally unique.
And that simple observation, it leads to a much bigger question. Why is it that no two of us will ever draw the same picture in the exact same way? The answer? Well, it's the key to really understanding diversity.
That unique way of drawing? Well, that's just one tiny thread in this incredible tapestry of who we are. Our differences are woven into countless layers, creating this really complex and beautiful picture of our identity.
I mean, think about it. It's the languages we dream in, the food that reminds us of home, the beliefs that guide us, and yeah, even the way we put a pencil to paper. All of these threads, when you weave them together, they create the rich fabric of diversity. But here's the big question, right? With so many differences, can we ever truly bridge the gaps between us? Can a real friendship grow when people are so fundamentally different? Let's find out. Through the story of two boys who shared a name and pretty much nothing else.
So, let me tell you a story. This is the tale of two Samirs whose worlds were miles apart, even though they met at the very same street corner every single day.
Our story starts at the chaotic Genpot crossing. You can almost hear the horns blaring and feel the hustle of the crowd. And in the middle of all that, you have a boy on a bicycle and a boy selling newspapers. Just a simple transaction that somehow sparked this incredibly unlikely connection.
And right away, the first barrier they hit is a simple assumption. The newspaper boy is just shocked that the cyclist speaks Hindi. "You look so Angrez," he says, which basically means, "so English." And in that one little word, you can feel the vast distance between their two worlds.
And here's where you can really see their two realities, laid out side by side. Samir Ek, he goes to school, he speaks English, and he studies Hindi just like any other subject. But for Samir Dam, who's never even stepped foot in a classroom, Hindi isn't a subject, it's the language of survival.
But then, something totally unexpected happens. The next day, the newspaper boy shyly tells him his name, Samir. The cyclist is so surprised, he says his bike almost wobbled as he replied, "My name is Samir too."
And just like that, from that day on, they are Samir Ek and Samir Du, Samir 1 and Samir 2. It becomes their little secret handshake, a way to acknowledge their differences while celebrating the one thing they share. In that small joke, they find common ground.
But their little bubble of friendship is about to be burst by the big, messy world outside. The next day, Samir's usual smile is gone. He talks about trouble in the city of Meerut, about riots and violence.
And when Samir Ek asks what's wrong, Samir Du reveals a part of his identity that had never even come up before. "I'm a Muslim," Samir, he says, "and his family is in Meerut." And suddenly, a difference that hadn't mattered at all becomes a giant chasm between them.
That was it. That was the last time Samir Ek ever saw his friend. The next day, and the day after that, the corner was empty. The story just ends without an ending, leaving this haunting question, where did Samir Do go?
So the story of the two Samirs isn't just about a lost friendship. It actually reveals a really crucial truth. Not all differences are created equal. Let's unpack what that really means.
So, on one hand, you've got diversity. The differences in culture and belief, like one Samir being Hindu and the other Muslim, these are the kinds of differences that can really enrich our world. But on the other hand, you have inequality, the lack of access to opportunities, like one Samir getting an education while the other has to work, and those are the differences that create barriers. To put it really simply, inequality is when the starting line just isn't the same for everybody. For Samir Do, his poverty and his lack of education weren't just differences, they were disadvantages. They came from inequality, and it's that inequality, not their religious diversity, that most likely put him in harm's way. So that makes you wonder, right? Where do all these rich tapestries of culture and language and tradition, where do they even come from? Well, the answer is literally written on the map, shaped by these two powerful forces, geography and history. Just take a look at these two regions in India. On the left, you see the stark, high-altitude desert of Ladakh, and on the right, the lush, green coastline of Kerala. The land itself practically dictates a completely different way of life.
So up in Ladakh, that mountainous terrain led to an economy built on pashmina wool, and its location on the trade route to Tibet brought Buddhism and Islam into the region. Now go all the way down south to coastal Kerala. There, the sea brought trade in spices, and with it, merchants from all over the world, creating this incredible, vibrant mix of cultures and religions.
So, okay, with all of these deep historical differences, how can a nation as vast and as varied as India find any common ground? Well, the answer lies in this powerful idea that actually became the nation's motto.
Unity in diversity. It was championed by India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. He believed that real unity wasn't about trying to erase differences. No, it was about celebrating them.
And a lot of the time, this unity was actually forged in the fire of a shared struggle. After the tragic Jallianwala Bagh massacre, a song was written with the line, "The blood of Hindus and Muslims flows together today." In their fight for freedom, people from all backgrounds found a common cause that was bigger than their differences, something the two Samirs were just starting to figure out for themselves.
So we're left with this really powerful idea. Diversity isn't a weakness, it's a strength. But in a world that so often feels fractured and divided, how can we in our own lives find unity not by ignoring our differences, but by actually embracing them? I think that's a question for all of us to answer. Thanks for joining me.